Hey, look, baby.
Hi, welcome to the Cloverhill Family Ministry Podcast. My name is Shea Smith,
I'm Alyssa Wohlert.
and we are talking about blended families today. And we are so excited. We have Dustin and Shirley Cooper here today.
Whoop, whoop.
And we're so grateful for you guys saying yes to come and share your story, share your heart. So thank
course.
you.
Yeah, we're so
Absolutely.
excited to be here and do something we're passionate about, which
Yeah.
is encouraging other blended families.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little about yourselves, where you grew up, how you met, your family.
Sure. So I'm Shirley Cooper, and this is my husband, Dustin, and we've been married now like 4 years.
Yeah.
And together, combined in our blend, we have 8 children. So I came.
Can we just take a second?
Yeah, let's have a moment.
She
of
said
silence
8,
for
everyone. She
it's
said 8.
It's a lot. So I came to the marriage with 5. He came to the marriage with 2, and then we had one together. And so I was married previously for about 14 years, and he.
I was married for 5 years. Yeah.
And then in June of 2020, we connected on Facebook, and it was all, I like to say, uphill from there.
Uphill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where'd you guys grow up?
So I grew up here. I was born in Puerto Rico, but my family moved to Virginia when I was really young. So I've lived here my whole life, and he has a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest. Big family. I'm one of 7 children. And so just kind of doing the family life. And we moved around a lot just due to the nature of where I grew up, and eventually settled here in Virginia around 2002. And I've been here ever since.
Okay, cool.
Fun story is that he's the oldest of 7, and he always told his parents, "I'm going to have 7 kids plus 1 and beat you guys."
Wow.
And so,
Really?
From a little
So
kid.
that's what
From a
he
little
did.
kid.
Oh my gosh.
Even in our wedding, my best man, he said, he was like, this kid's been talking about this since we were kids.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
About how he's going to have 7 kids plus probably 1 more.
and beat his parents.
Yep.
And
how
that's what he did.
that gave me like goosebumps, honestly, of, like how that came to be.
There's actually so many beautiful God fingerprints all over our story and how God brought us together, but that would take a whole podcast. But
Yeah.
Well, good thing, because we have a whole podcast ahead. We're going to hear a lot of that.
For sure.
So I'm just going to jump right in. We have a lot of questions we can get through as much as we can, and feel free to go as the conversation leads. But the first question I want to know, how can a blended family center their identity in Christ, especially dealing with complex histories?
yeah, this is a really great question, and there are so many complexities when it comes to living in a blended family life. And one of those complexities for us is that our ex-spouses, more so his ex, they aren't Christian. She's not a Christian. And so our house is the only house where the kids go consistently to church. And so church is one of the things that I think we try to center our time with our kids. We always try to make that happen. Thankfully, the way everything lined up, we have all of our kids on Wednesday nights. And so
That has
every
been a
other
huge help.
every
Yeah.
other Sunday they're in the house of the Lord. Every Wednesday night we make sure we take them. And the complexity is trying to raise kids who live double lives almost, with
Right.
one parent who isn't serving the Lord and has different worldview and moral standards. And then when they come to our house, that's so hard. That's so hard for them.
And even in
they're having to live a totally different, up to different expectations.
Yeah.
And even in situations where both maybe have the same faith, there's totally different cultures.
Yeah.
Just different ways of doing things. You were divorced for a reason, most likely. And so there are some pretty big differences between the two people, even when 2 people of faith get divorced. So the complexity is very, very high. And navigating that is one of the biggest challenges
It
to
is.
doing a blended life. And ultimately there just has to be within our marriage this just intentionality around making God the center of our home day in and day out. I mean, you want to do that in any kind of family profile, but in a blended family, you have to just, and as we talk about this, you'll see everything has to be done at just a way higher and more intentional level in order to have success.
Yeah, in a blended family, you quickly realize that you don't have a lot of control over a lot. In our case, we both have our kids 50% of the time. We split 50-50 custody. And so we don't have control over the other 50% of our kids' lives. And that's really complex and that's really difficult. And so one thing that you have to embrace early on is I can control what I can control and I can't control what I can't control.
Yeah,
and can't control if you go to church or if your other parent talks to you about God or pours faith into you, but we can control that on our time. And so we try to be super intentional about it. Sometimes maybe even like on overdrive on our time, because sometimes you feel like I'm trying to make up for I'm trying to make up for the other half of your life. But yeah.
Shirley, when I had thought of you guys doing this podcast, you and I had a conversation about a month or so ago, and you said you were talking about your blended family, and I was so intrigued by listening. And you said this is never the intention, though. This was never the point of like we weren't supposed to get divorced. It was never. This is what it wasn't. It shouldn't have been this. Yeah. And you said it so much better than I just did. But
this is something very dear to both of our hearts to always, and I'll let you communicate it because I think you do a really good job.
I think as a believer and as someone who believes that God is sovereign and that He is good, we have to believe that God is able to make beauty out of ashes. Absolutely. And He does, and He can restore, and He does that so well, and He does that so beautifully. But I think our heart when we talk about blended family life would never be to romanticize it.
Yeah.
We have an incredible love story. We have a beautiful marriage today, and I will always be so thankful for that. But that's not God's first plan and intention. Obviously, we will always encourage people, like, fight for your marriage. We both come from stories and histories where there was betrayal and there were affairs, and even with that being the story of my first marriage, I fought, for 6 years to try and make that work. Everyone's story is different, but when God brought Destin into my life, it was I have this like beautiful love story now that I'm so proud of and that I'm so excited to share about, but I never ever want that to overshadow the trauma and the pain and the tragedy that this beautiful story was birthed out of.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right, because often once marriages get really difficult and you start looking at and seeing people who have successfully divorced and remarried,
Or successfully on the outside.
Yeah.
It plants this seed of, well, then maybe it's best if I just walk away.
And we never want
And we never want the goodness in our life to be the driver for somebody seeing that to go, maybe I'll walk away when it wasn't time for them to walk away. And that's really, it's something we probably talk about more than almost anything else, because it's that tension between being a believer and having the life we have, but wanting to be so careful.
It's that tension of God restored and made something very beautiful now, but it's also not plan A. And we both fully acknowledge we live in plan B.
Sure. And that you said that, both of you, so well, and that's really powerful. And also the plan B with children involved, you're still having to walk through healing in that process with your children to, be okay with plan B and to very vulnerable stages and ages. Can you talk a little bit more about that, of how you guys walk as a family through the healing process? Because I'm sure that you still see it in your children that they're dealing with it.
I'm almost just like, where does the grace come from? Because the grace for me to have 4 kids and the grace for me to be married to my husband, I'm like, God, I need you. I need you. So like, to add it onto all of, I'm just like, where, like, obviously I know your source, but like.
So that's kind of a double question thing. So the first part would be, I feel like in my personal life, for me, I'm healed from the trauma of my first marriage. And I think he's at a good place where he could say that too.
Yeah,
We're both
absolutely.
healed from
Yeah.
that. But I think there will always, at least this is our story 4 years into our blend, there's still a grief for not having my first family intact. And I think that will always show up throughout my lifetime. My kids will have babies, and then their dad's going to have to be a part of that. There's going to be weddings that our exes are going to have to be a part of. It. We are constantly reminded that this isn't the perfect plan. And so even though I'm healed from the trauma of my first marriage, I think I will always walk with a little bit of heaviness and grief, and I think our kids will too. I think our kids will always wish that their mom and their dad were together, and I think
And it's
that's okay. We just have to be okay with with that.
And the parents cannot get so lost in their love story and their joy over their second chance that they forget that this isn't that for their kids.
Right.
It's just not.
That's huge.
So how do you walk through that? I mean, are kids in counseling over it? Do you guys talk about it, or is it let them come to you?
Yeah.
What does that look like practically in your family?
We have very open conversations, one-on-ones around the table. We have some, dinners are a big part of our life, and, we can get into that at some point, but we'll have these conversations where we just ask the kids, where are you? Me and Shirley, like we had a question one time over dinner. We said, guys, we have never been children of divorced parents, because neither of us have. So we can't speak to what you feel. So I want this to be an open forum where you guys just tell us how you guys feel, because we don't know. And we want to know so that we can be the best parents we can be within this dynamic.
And
that
some of
ended
the
up being like a
answers-
beautiful freaking, like, it was so awesome.
Some of the answers that the kids gave us were, before we got married, we did the counseling. We've done books on step parenting, and some of the answers that our kids gave us, we hadn't even considered that having been a thought that they had. What did one of your kids say? And she just cried.
And she said,
She said,
Go ahead.
She said, one of the hardest things for me is that I don't have a memory of you and Mom being together. And she just cried. And we thought, wow, you were
I started
2.5.
crying.
He
I'm
started
gonna start
crying.
crying. Wow.
Where, and not long after that,
she did something really sweet.
I went through Facebook, and I found a picture where Dustin and his ex-wife and their daughter were together for her birthday, and it's just the three of them. Wow. And I printed her a picture of that, and she has it. It's still like on display on her.
And
her
and
room.
I always honor her for that, because that's not an easy thing to go do for a.
Oh, I don't want to walk by a picture.
That's how just anyone would be. So this is the nature of blended families.
this is the
is
nature
how
of it. Yeah.
complex it always is.
Yeah.
And you never get a break from that
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
If you want to do it right.
So Shirley, you took that initiative and you took that step to help your stepdaughter really have that memory in that moment to bring that alive. How, as being a step parent to your stepchildren, how do you build that connection as a step parent to your stepchild?
That's actually our biggest hurdle. Is
that's been the biggest tension point in our entire blend is the kids. Building
Not
the
them with
connections.
each other.
Not them with each other. We are so blessed, because in many blended families the kids do not get along. We're very blessed. Our kids get along awesomely.
Yeah, they
like
love
they
their time
consider
together.
each other
Full-blown
siblings,
siblings.
full-blown siblings, and it really
That's
started
awesome.
with Shirley's oldest was just a godsend. She, just the nature of her personality was she immediately just started calling everyone their sibling, and the rest of the kids just
Followed
follow
suit.
her.
Yeah.
And so we're always going to be very blessed by her and her impact on that. But developing relationships with the kids has definitely been a hurdle.
More for me.
Yeah.
Dustin, my children adore Dustin, to the point where my ex-husband one time texted Dustin and said, hey man, like, I just need you to know my kids love you so much, and I'm
Wow.
thankful
Yeah, he did.
for like
Wow.
your impact and effect on their
awesome.
lives. So
Wow.
I think there are a lot of dynamics that come into play with why his relationship with my kids is a little bit easier versus my relationship with his kids.
First off, my kids were abused by their previous step-parent. The state had to remove them from the home, and that was how I got custody of my kids back. Because originally I lost custody of my children. I didn't lose custody. I signed my custody away when I went through.
Trying to make his marriage work.
I was very much in a Christian mindset of fight for your marriage.
Sure.
So I didn't have a lawyer, so I signed a bunch of agreement. What I didn't know at that time was that my ex-wife was pregnant with this person's child. And so I signed a bunch of agreements. So I ended up losing custody of my kids because of that agreement I signed, thinking that it was going to lead to restoration. It did not. And I ended up losing quite badly. The stepdad came in, ended up being primarily in my children's life from 2015 to 2020. When my daughter went to the public school system, the teacher said, hey, some stuff's happening at home, a conversation, boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, we're in court and I'm getting my children back. But to go back to this question, because my children entered this with a step-parent having abused their mother and them, it's a very different dynamic.
Yeah.
It
for
is
her.
complex because I remember one of his kids saying one time, well, this step-parent started out nice and didn't end up being so great. And so what that said to me was, Shirley, even though you're great right now, I'm still very apprehensive. Could you change on a dime? And so their trust in me, obviously, and not their fault, of any fault of their own, was very, very shaky, very rocky. And so you're talking about dealing with kids who have come from trauma. And so that's made our connection hard to make.
To this day.
And I would say too, not only just like the connection, but also how you parent.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
I would probably, my kids would probably say I can be a very mean parent. Well, I'm trying to like discipline them.
Yeah.
And,
And
like,
that's a
set
biological
the-
kid.
Right.
So you can't, yes,
So-
discipline is a huge thing in a blended family. And so I refuse and I will not discipline his children ever. If I ever need something to be done, I always say, hey, Dustin, can you ask so-and-so to X, Y, and Z?
And you can imagine, as both moms of your own home, and kind
That's
of
hard.
that's got to
Yeah.
Very
how hard
hard.
that is on her to feel
Yeah.
in her home but not able to parent the
Or
way
have
she
control
wants
in
to.
your home, like
for a
you-
woman who
like
is
you
the
would want
lifeblood
to.
of the heartbeat of the home.
Yeah.
And so that's very hard.
But
for
he's
her.
able to discipline my kids.
I am.
He is. He's
The
able to tell
three
them to
younger
stop.
ones, not
Yeah,
the two older
not
ones.
the two older ones.
The
He
two older
doesn't-
ones were a little older when the blend happened, and so I went really hands off. I went to the Lord. I said, God, I need a game plan for how I parent these children.
That's right.
And God
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
specifically, I noted it down in a journal. He said for the two older ones, think of yourself as an uncle, as an advice giver, as
Friend.
as a friend. Do not overstep that. With the three, treat them like you are two.
I love that, Dustin. I think that's such a good
Yeah.
practical takeaway, just as our listeners, if they're navigating a blended family, of going to the Lord and saying, how do I discipline? How do I parent
Yeah.
well in this specific family situation? I think
Right.
that's a really great
Because
takeaway.
each situation is just unique.
And each person.
I
each
just-
In
child.
each individual child, yeah.
I feel like people listening you guys have such a right, in a sense, to just say, it's not fair. I think that can be such the trap of the enemy versus the opposite of everything. I could get emotional just hearing it through you guys, such humility being modeled. I think it would be very easy to people listening to say, why me? Or it's not fair, or this could be so much easier for somebody else. And like, what would you say to the family that it hasn't worked out and they're trying to make it work and they feel like, what they're doing is not working and all of the things? Like, what do you say to that feeling of it's not fair?
Alyssa, that like hits really home for me because those have been like the words that have just poured out of my heart. I didn't grow up in a great family, and so my dream as a kid was to become a mom and create my own beautiful family. And so when that didn't work out for me the way that I had always dreamed and pictured and planned for it to, I was unbelievably, and still to this day, am sometimes heartbroken over the reality that is my life. And I've kicked and screamed, it's not fair. This is not what I wanted my family to look like. And I think there are a couple of things that combat that. And I always think having a grateful and a thankful heart for what you do have is probably the biggest tool that I try to go to. And I'm not saying this in a place where I have arrived, because I'm still in the trenches at times with like my feelings. You know, I'm a woman, and so like I feel things deeply. And so I'm not saying this on the other side as though I've accomplished this fully. I'm saying this like, this is me now. I have to say, God, I have an incredible husband. We live in a beautiful home. We live in a beautiful neighborhood. And just being thankful for what you do have, because it's so easy to look at what you don't have. And that is the trap, is when you get stuck in the I don't haves. You know, I have to share my kids at Christmas. I have to maybe not have them next Easter or next 4th of July. Like, that's not fair. And it's very, not only is it not fair, it feels very unnatural as a mother to go a span of time not seeing your kids or having your kids. It's unnatural. That's the best way I can describe it. And
do you ever get used to it?
No. I still have days where I grieve. I grieve this.
This Father's Day, I had a hard day. I was supposed to lead worship. To be blunt and raw and honest, I had to just let her have my song and just stay back. I stayed home because I just had this overwhelming my dream my whole life was to be a dad. And I lost, and until the divorce, I was a stay-at-home dad while I was going through college. So I potty trained my children, I taught them to sleep at night, I did all of the little things, and then very suddenly they were gone, but 6 days a month. And there's this massive time that until I got them back, that I lost with my children. And there are just days like Father's Day or things like that where the weight of it hits so hard, it crushes you. And I know there are moms and dads out there who feel that, and there's no escaping from that. I mean, it's 10 years since my ex-wife left, and I'm still getting hit with that feeling. And you know, a lot of times it can be easy to think that, you know, that's related to the woman because the more emotional side of the dynamic, but men feel it very much too, especially if men who have a heart for family. And you don't ever escape it. That's, God hates divorce for a reason, not because you're bad, you got a divorce, but because of what it does to his children, what it does to his children. I mean, you never 100% get away from the loss because you're reminded of it every single day.
This is a kind of zooming out. How do churches support and encourage blended families well? What do you see as lacking, and where do you see the church can encourage blended families more?
So I'm a big believer that we are the church. And so I never want to point fingers at like a leadership that they are or aren't doing something that they should or shouldn't be doing, because we are the church.
Sure.
And so actually something that we have on our hearts is to maybe like start a small group for blended families. And we feel like that's something that we can do as the church to help support other blended families. What's interesting about that, though, is
that's what I was gonna say.
The last church that we were at that we loved and still love to this day, they were reaching out and had a small group for blended families. And we were the only couple to sign up.
In 3 attempts to start this.
3 attempts to start something to support
and
help blended families.
In the subculture of blended families, and this is real, and this is why I don't know what the church can do, to be honest, because the reality is people don't want to talk about the fact that they're a blended family. People tend to want to get really into their second chance. This is my second chance. I'm going to move forward. We're moving on.
Interesting.
And so they join regular small groups. They surround themselves with nuclear families. But the problem is you can't go to a nuclear family parent for advice on how to blend.
No.
And so you end up feeling, a lot of these blended families end up feeling very isolated, but it's of their own doing. And something that's really on our heart is to kind of break it open. So we kind of really talk about very openly. We have a YouTube channel about it. Being like, open up, talk about it, because in that people will come to you.
Yeah.
Community will arise, and in that you will find, and I believe it will lead to much more success. The truth is, statistically, blended families, especially where both have children, fail at about 76%.
Wow.
And that's a study I was reading this morning. The range is between 60 to 80 for second marriages, but once kids are involved, you're talking almost an 80% failure rate.
Wow.
Because of the dynamics, and a lot of that is that people isolate themselves because they just want to live in their second chance. And that's why listening to us, you can probably hear us so against that, don't get caught up in your second chance. This is the reality.
Yeah.
Face it and make this reality beautiful, but not by running from it.
Right. I love that you guys, like, this is a passion of yours, and you're like, hey, we're going to be part of the solution. We're going to be part of the answer of
we hope to
being the church. And I hope you guys do start this, and I hope people sign up. Like, if there's anybody, like, sign up. This is so, so important. I think that's what you just said was on the nose, just being so intentional and real about this second chance and making the most of it, not putting blinders on from the past, but how do we heal, how do we walk through, and how do we do it together? Because it does seem like it's a very isolated subculture of let's just be quiet about it and let's just keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, are there any tools or practical advice that have been game changers in the Cooper family for your blended family, and what you could offer to blended families and people who don't have blended families? We want to know.
Yeah.
I
know
first.
you have a lot
I have
to
something
probably say on that, but I think for me, the number one piece of advice that has been a game changer for us is we had a counselor early on, even before we got married. And one of the things he said to us was, this will be the hardest thing you do. And I didn't believe him, and I should have.
But something you don't want to hear.
No, you don't want to hear that. This is my second chance. I'm
Yeah.
in love all over again. Don't tell me this is the hardest thing I'm going to have to do.
Right.
But also,
especially what we just went through.
Especially, yes, I just went through hard. I don't
Right.
want hard again. But I think having a mediator, a third person sometimes, like in any marriage, who you can come to and just give you advice from the outside is always just going to be so healthy. But I know Dustin has a passion for fathers in this role.
And I think what I've found, I have read, I have done so much research, I have talked to so many people, and what I have found is that blended families live and die on the leadership of the husband. Many men, when you get into a blended family scenario, especially when you have children, guys are looking for help. They're looking to lighten the load. They're looking for things to get a little bit easier. That's how men tend to just operate. They just do. And what my biggest advice to any guy stepping into, I'm about to take on children that are not mine, I'm about to bring a woman into my children's life, is that your job will not get easier. Your job, you have to step up in a way that you never have before. Because your wife is going to have feelings, your children are going to have feelings, and you're the one with the only one with the God-given ability to keep calm and lead the family through this immensely difficult dynamic. And far and away, men in these scenarios just want, and they don't mean this maliciously, but they're looking for the woman to come in there and to help them with their kids, help them do this, help them do that.
And to make things easier when in fact the opposite happens for the man.
Often in blended families, the man has to take a larger role than he ever would in a nuclear family or in many other scenarios. And he has to be willing to do that. And you have to take servant leadership to a whole other level. And more often than not, men don't do that. And the statistics for blended families show that. And the amount of times that a man just is like, everything will be okay. And the woman is like, no, everything's not okay. Because the men are just so obsessed with the macro, the high level, are the bills paid? Is everything okay? Nobody's dying. And a man, in a blended family, a man has to get so granular, and it goes so against our nature at times. But if you don't do that, and I don't mean this, to be negative or whatnot. But if you do not do that, if you do not find a way to do that with God and only through God, your blend will fail.
And Dustin has lived that.
Yeah.
He's carried the weight of our family many, many times when, the Bible talks about us women, we're weaker vessels. And I have felt that so often, and he's had to get really big shoulders to carry us all sometimes.
We are so grateful for you guys sharing your story and giving us a little glimpse of your reality and what Cloverhill have so many blended families. And it's just, I've learned so much and
same.
fought back tears. And I'm also so grateful for people like you who have this heart, who have this passion, who want to be a part of helping other blended families. So I just pray over you guys that you walk in that authority, walk in that calling as a couple, and that God continues to anoint you guys for this really important work and mission, and to beat that 76% or
76.
76.
That's right.
Wow.
This is his heart, and so I have no doubt that God's going to continue to place people in your guys' path who will feel like, I thought it was just me, or like you're saying, these hidden things, or even maybe like, oh, I didn't quite process, like I thought I did the things that had happened before or whatever. Like, I think he's absolutely going to bring y'all's way. I just appreciate y'all's authenticity. Your, like I said, humility just scream. This would not be possible without ample amounts of humility, and that can only be found in Jesus. And so I'm just encouraged. I mean, very encouraged by you guys.
We're
Thank y'all
honored
so
and
much for
humbled.
your wisdom.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
All right, we
having
got
us.
to end on just like maybe a little higher.
Let's take it up.
100%.
What if y'all are going out as a big old blended family? Where are you going to eat? What's the restaurant?
We're going to a pizza place.
Yep, they love their
we're going
pizza.
to Vinny's. We're going to Vinny's.
Right there by the lake.
We're getting
and
like 5 pizzas and like
Yep.
5 basket of fries.
Yep.
I love it. Oh,
For all the kids.
Nice.
That sounds. And now I'm hungry.
Because that's what they live off of. Pizza and
Sounds
fries.
so good. That's the
Yep.
way to their hearts.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you guys. Cloverhill, thank you guys so much for listening. You're going to see this sweet couple leading on Sundays at church on the stage, and we're so grateful for them sharing their story, and we can't wait to come back and do another episode. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.